Hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right.
So the title is straightforward, and if you want to find out everything that CBR said on this subject, check out that website. So let's not stick, let's get into the topic. Number 10. Jujutsu Kaisen has brisk pacing compared to the original Bleach anime. Modern fans expect anime to have snappy pacing.
He's out of line, but he's right.
So they said on this, Jujutsu Kaisen is part of that trend with the manga and anime both featuring tight, smart pacing compared to the bloated and leisurely pacing of Bleach, whether or not fillers are considered. Bleach was simply too slow, and modern fans might not like that. The exception is the new Bleach 1000-Year Blood War. Moving on next to number 9, Jujutsu Kaisen has strong horror elements. The blood, gore, and monsters are how JJK became part of the Dark Trio. Much more so than Bleach, Jujutsu Kaisen plays up the nightmarish horror of supernatural monsters preying on humans, with some memorable curse design still haunting fans today. Bleach hollows were cool and powerful, but they don't have the same eerie atmospheric vibe as the curses that haunt Jujutsu Kaisen streets. Number 8. Jujutsu Kaisen doesn't rely on contrivances to progress the plot. Is that how you pronounce that word? Anyway, meanwhile, Bleach heroes kept getting powers out of nowhere.
What did he say?
So my tiny brain trying to remember what are contrivances or contrivances, however you pronounce it in what part of the world you live. So I looked it up online, and it says something that causes things to happen in a story in a way that does not seem natural or believable.
Correct!
So point number 8, their explanation, it says in shonen action series like these, there is always a risk of sheer contrivances or deus ex machinas, how is pronounce that, popping up to save the day. Unfortunately, Bleach relied on them rather heavily in multiple story arcs, often by giving bankai to characters who needed them at the last second. The series also abruptly introduced new aspects to existing abilities or zanpakuto in the most convenient ways for the hero. Jujutsu Kaisen anime does far less of that. Even the blatantly overpowered Gojo only does what fans expect from his infinity-based powers. And characters like Kento, Toji, and Nobara make good use of their existing powers rather than get new abilities out of thin air to win unwinnable fights.
You sure about that? You sure about that? You sure about that?
Moving on to point number 7, which I find is very unfair. I've never watched Bleach, I've never watched Jujutsu Kaisen, but to compare animation from a show that came out so long ago to a show that came out recently, I think that's pretty unfair. But their number 7 point is Jujutsu Kaisen has high quality animation from episode 1 onward. Bleach only got modern visuals when it returned from hiatus. There's another production value advantage that favors Jujutsu Kaisen simply because it's newer than the Bleach anime. It's certainly not Taite Kubo's fault. That animation in the early 2000s was more primitive and limited than what fans enjoy now, but all the same, Bleach's original anime simply doesn't look that good in the eyes of modern viewers. Only the 1000-Year Blood War story arc has impressive visuals. Number 6, Jujutsu Kaisen humor is stronger and more charming than Bleach's. A lot of Bleach's humor just feels like padding.
Okay.
While humor is not central to the success of an anime series like Jujutsu Kaisen, it may still boost the anime's appeal and balance the tone. The anime's humor is amusing and never excessive, allowing fans to enjoy comedic moments like Yuji and Nobara teasing Megumi or Gojo pranking and irritating everyone around him. Bleach had its funny moments too, but many other would-be funny scenes in that anime were really just the characters sniping at each other for no good reason, or tasteless humor about lecherous characters chasing girls. Too often that anime's humor was based on two hotheads provoking each other and making aggressive faces until someone else made them stop. Number 5, Jujutsu Kaisen has no filler episodes. Even its plot-light baseball episode was fun to watch. For a serious and hard-hitting anime like Jujutsu Kaisen, filler would almost definitely a problem rather than a fun bonus, so it's fortunate that the anime has none. The story did have that baseball sequence, but even that wasn't necessarily filler. Meanwhile, for production reasons, the Bleach anime had a lot of filler, with roughly 1/3 of the original anime's episodes being filler. In fact, that anime had entire seasons of filler, which is a ludicrous idea in the eyes of modern anime fans. It's possible for fans to look up which Bleach episodes are filler and avoid them when watching Bleach, but it's still concerning that fans even have to do that. Number 4, Jujutsu Kaisen features a leaner cast of characters. It's easy to follow an anime with a limited cast. Bleach eventually ended up with an awful lot of characters, especially since the heroes were so rarely killed off. Meanwhile, Jujutsu Kaisen features plenty of fun characters but doesn't get carried away, both by limiting how many new characters appear and killing them off. Plenty of minor characters mind their place and vanish not long after they are introduced, keeping the main focus on the main cast. Number 3, Jujutsu Kaisen is willing to kill off its characters to maintain the tension. In some Bleach arcs, no one died. So we are heading into spoiler territory, so you have been warned. In a horror action series like Jujutsu Kaisen, it would be strange if the heroes didn't get killed off regularly. This adds some serious emotional impact when the likes of Kento, Nanami die on screen. Bleach did start killing off more heroes in the final arc, such as Yamamoto dying at Yuhaba. I don't know how to pronounce this character's name, I just Google it on YouTube. Yuhaba hands and Yuohana giving her life to help train Kenpachi, but as a whole, Bleach was too reluctant to kill off its heroes. That anime didn't have a horror vibe to reinforce with frequent deaths, but even so, killing off more heroes would have boosted the tension more. An extreme example is the Soul Society arc, which featured 0 character deaths despite all the action. Moving on to number 2, pound for pound, Jujutsu Kaisen has more and better female fighters. Nobara, Maki, Mai, and Yuki are all fantastic action stars.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
The original Bleach series certainly features some cool female fighters like Yoriichi Shijoin and Tie Haribel. Sorry for the bad pronunciation, but given how huge that anime cast was, those handful of female characters usually got lost in the noise. The ratio is rather skewed, but modern anime like Jujutsu Kaisen have other ideas in mind. The JJK anime has a higher percentage of female characters than Bleach did, which is great news for viewers who want female role models to look up to and or those who love seeing shonen girls in action. Nobara is the main example, and she is in good company with the twin sisters Maki and Mei around, not to mention Momo, Nishimiya, Yuki, and Mei. JJK hardly has any training arcs. By now, training arcs feel passé, doubly so in tightly paced series. The original Bleach had far too many training arcs, mostly Ichigo Kurosaki training in sword duels before facing his next opponent, and even the new anime has more than a few training sequences. JJK only lightly touches on this familiar shonen trope, such as Yuji briefly training to regulate the flow of his emotions while watching The Lord of the Rings. Interesting. Otherwise, this anime's heroes tend to learn on the job, developing new techniques and getting stronger while facing their cursed enemies on the battlefield. That's not the only way for shonen heroes to power up, but in a sharply paced anime like Jujutsu Kaisen is nearly always the best way. So what are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments, how do you feel about these 10 points about Jujutsu Kaisen being more Bleach than Bleach? What an interesting title. But that's not the only CBR article we only talked about. They also mentioned some weeks ago about the One Piece anime remake is a mistake. So I encourage you to check it out. But in order for you to access that video, you have to click on the subscribe button. So that's it. Now go on.